Episode 4. We've made it to episode 4 of the Property Pulse podcast with me, Russell Jervis.
And me, Russell Quirk.
And in this trilogy of, well, self-employed leaders, today we have Steph Walker. Welcome, Steph.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, and 4 is my lucky number.
Oh,
wow.
fantastic.
Well, we'll see about that.
We will. Lucky for me or you, or who knows.
So a career estate agent, Steph, starting back in Liverpool, on the tools. Tell us about your journey from there via Purplebricks, via the USA to the TAUK.
So I suppose I'm one of the people that it was kind of destined I was going to be an estate agency, and everybody really cringes when I say this, but I think it was in the blood. So my parents had their own 10-branch independent agency for many, many years, and I started off as a sales neg on the weekend in between hangovers and college.
Surely not in Liverpool. Sorry, Liverpool.
Oi. Now. I mean, not that early in the podcast. Oh, God, here we go. Yeah. So I started out, as I say, as a weekend sales negotiator in a little village called Ormskirk, where I now live. And actually, I suppose at that point, I didn't think I was going to be an estate agent. I went to university to do music. Very quickly realised that, I don't sing like Amy Winehouse, so unfortunately I'm not going to make much money from that.
Did you think previously that you did? Had someone told you that you singing in the shower was beautiful?
Maybe I didn't think I was Amy Winehouse, but I liked earning money. And I said to my parents, I'm leaving university, it's not for me. And my mum said, well, we're going to kick you out unless you find a job by the end of summer. So I thought, well, I've been a weekend sales negotiator before. My friends owned another estate agency because my parents had sold at that point. So I thought, oh God, that's an easy way to get a job. Went back in and didn't look back. Although about a year later, I was in a small independent, which is brilliant. It's still run today. The girls that I worked with then actually own that agency now, which is, absolutely brilliant. But at the time it was owner, sort of branch manager ran. And I wanted to do more than be a neg. And unless, she'd have sold on or what have you, I would have had, no place to go. So I lied on my CV. And said I was the... Sorry, Russell.
Yes.
And said
someone in the property industry lying to a recruiter.
At least I'm honest about it.
Never heard of that.
But I was the branch manager. And because it was quite a small independent in a different area, I knew it wouldn't be found out. Anyway, got a branch manager's role and went on from there. Spent some time at Countrywide for my sins, which was brilliant. I love it.
For who? Which brand?
We're Entwistle Green.
Right.
Okay.
In the north, of course.
In sales?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was given a branch that hadn't made profit for many, many years. It's like the sink or swim branch, but we did make profit year one. So very small profit.
Right, and how'd you do that? How'd you turn a loss-making branch into one that's profitable? How did you do that?
Oh, gosh, now you're asking me many, many years ago. I think it was more around getting out and not being corporate, although we were under a sort of corporate umbrella. I think the nickname for me apparently was going native girl because I kind of did what I wanted. Right. But I just thought...
you defied convention almost.
Ever so slightly.
Oh, good.
But, we'd all earn commission on a certain fee level and this, that and the other. But you can make those things happen by engineering. So it doesn't have to follow, the red tape every single time, as long as across the board it's fitting the plan that people want. So
that must have made you feel good and kind of fueled your entrepreneurial spirit, that you've gone into a branch that's loss-making, turned it into one that's profit-making. So that kind of fueled you to the next thing.
Would Harry have been the chairman at that time?
Apparently he can't remember the brand.
Oh, I was going to say.
Sorry, can't remember you or the branch.
No. The first time I met Harry, actually, I walk in, ex-Countrywide, so proud. But
this is Harry Hill, everybody, by the way. He was he was the chairman, but he was the CEO of Countrywide for many, many years. In its, dare I venture, in its successful times. You remember those? Quite a way back. Oops.
I couldn't remember the particular
I think some of those
brands,
local brands are resurging at the moment. I'm definitely seeing a little bit of a resurgence there.
Yeah, I'm prodding, I'm playing. Right, so after that, where?
I've eventually sort of thought corporate. I got another branch after that. Brilliant town where I'd had my school career, etc. I lived there at the time. I loved it. But I wanted some more freedom and flexibility. So there was a sort of startup independent. I went and joined them and was there for 2-3 years. We had several branches, etc. It was brilliant. But there's only so much that I think you can do in sort of conventional estate agency, or certainly it was then, which is, we're talking 2014. Mm-hmm. And I remember I went to interview back with some corporates, with some other independents, and I was like, this is just Groundhog Day.
So 2014, by no coincidence, is the year that a certain big online estate agency was founded.
Correct.
Purplebricks.
Correct.
Who you managed to find your way to.
I had a message on LinkedIn saying, we're going to launch this business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Can we have a conversation? And I'm always up for a conversation because I think,
who was that message from? Kenny?
Andrew Bass, actually.
Right. Oh,
there we go.
Okay.
Yeah. So can we have a conversation? So I'm always up for a conversation. I always think, why not? But I actually gave him the runaround several times once I'd heard a little bit about it because I wasn't too interested. Then I was meant to go and meet him and Kenny in person twice. No-showed.
And what was the role?
I'm a dreadful candidate, aren't I? I mean, never try and hire me.
Not selling yourself, but...
In episode 2, Megan was saying that women will never lie on their CV.
Yeah,
they'll be completely compliant, straight as you like.
And what was the role?
It was for territory owner.
Right. Okay.
So Purplebricks hadn't launched in the Northwest.
And they were going to launch at the bottom of the country, the Meridian TV region, from what I remember,
Correct.
upwards.
Yeah. So I think we were sort of launch 3 maybe at that point. Eventually I did go and meet them in person, and purely because there was a bit of an altercation in my branch.
You punched someone?
No, but
you punched
somebody
a vendor. Why? What did you do that for?
Actually, what happened was I called the mortgage advisor out for doing a really bad job. He was best friends with the owner of the business. That didn't go down too well. But I was told, you work in Merseyside, so get on with it, which I don't, adhere to that way of thinking. So that engineered me to actually go and have this meeting with Andy and Kenny in some dreadful Brewers Fair, in Stoke or somewhere. And as they say, the rest is history. And for me, it wasn't around the fees because face it, in Merseyside, there were people listing homes and selling them for, a 600, 700 quid fee. Yeah. It wasn't really about that. I just saw this is something different. It's something that's there to empower the seller. Certainly something I hadn't tried to do, I suppose, in my conventional way of thinking. And I did think if somebody else gets their hands on this, they could do really well. And I feel like I am the Merseyside estate agent and I just won't let anybody else have that opportunity.
Yeah, albeit you were obviously aware, Purplebricks weren't the first online agents. There were some that started before that, I'm just saying.
Apparently so.
Yeah. And also failed. Seekers was back in the 70s or 80s. So you were aware of the online estate agency concept and obviously got kind of hooked into it, I suppose. But it also would have been, I guess, in the days of everybody being self-employed. So were the TOs self-employed?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so that's another big step, which obviously we've talked about a lot with others on this in your chair, that jump to go from a cosy existence or relatively cosy existence in an independent or a corporate, not just to another business, but another model and one where you're self-employed. That was quite a big step, right?
I suppose looking back, it really was. But the proposition at the time seemed so compelling. And again, I was purely thinking, what do I think sellers are going to want to do? Because it was all about empowering the seller, giving them a bigger part during the journey that they hadn't had before.
And a huge marketing budget, wasn't it, to drive business as well. That's where I could see from the comfort blanket from, we've heard on previous podcasts where people have to have 12 months money, 6 months money, 4 months money, whereas at Purplebricks in their heyday, valuations were flying into LJ diaries.
I'm going to be honest, I was really naive because I wasn't sat there when I was speaking to Andy and Kenny thinking about how I'm going to generate leads, etc.
How am I going to pay a mortgage? How am I going to do this?
I wasn't even thinking. I was thinking, that's going to be truly exciting. I know that I can bring sellers on that journey with me. And so I'm backing myself, which again was very, very naive because I wasn't really aware of the TV campaigns. It hadn't yet launched in the Northwest. Could have gone down like a damp squib, of course. Now it didn't. And I was so you have this sort of 2-week induction in-person training. It was 2 weeks thereafter I took my 21st listing, which is just...
21 in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And bearing in mind you're getting paid roughly what? It was about 300 quid, wasn't it? 200 or 300 quid per week.
Yeah.
So not too bad. Not too bad at all, month one. But that was just the first 2 weeks. And then it just compounded from there. Now, I boxed clever because I started bringing in team members. I grew a team really, really quickly.
But was that your brief? So your brief was to start and then bring in other people under you as you expanded?
I don't think a lot of people did it quickly enough to take advantage of that run rate.
So you started recruiting?
Yeah.
Early doors?
I mean, people, for me, it was
Take
quite...
note, Russ. Take note. This is how it's done.
It was quite simple, though. You know, I'd worked in Merseyside for a very long time at that point. I'd had brilliant people that had been part of my teams. And all of a sudden, you know, I'll talk about work-life balance. Obviously, with 21 live listings and counting, there wasn't really
There's not much work-life balance there.
But I definitely saw that just a bit of freedom and flexibility was a game changer. You know, not having to go into the office for 8:30.
Yeah, but even though you're working hard, but you're working on your terms, right?
Yeah, it was just, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Enjoyed pretty much every minute. And I just wanted to spread that feeling amongst my friends and ex-colleagues.
A lot of people I hear describe, and people I've interviewed over the years, or people that I just know that worked at Purplebricks, described it as a cult in its heyday, as being a real cult and a business that just felt it could not stop. It just kept on going. How did it feel being part of that?
Yeah, and I think there's negative connotations that come with the word cult, but it does form part of the word culture. We were an unstoppable army. There was no better feeling. You would have ran, you know, it sounds cheesy and pardon the pun, but you would have ran through a brick wall for anybody within that business. We felt like we were really achieving something, you know, a business, the Trustpilot reviews. You hadn't seen an estate agency business as a brand at that level garner through those reviews, you know, so quickly. And
I have to stop you there. Aren't they a bone of contention? I remember back in the day, people used to say that they were all fabricated, Steph.
I remember that as well. Later on in my career, I worked really closely with the head of customer experience in the UK. If anybody uses Trustpilot, you know that you have to be able to prove that they are true customers, etc. So yeah, I get it. You know, from the outside looking in, you wanted to think that they were fake, but they were so good. But also remember, the vast majority of clients that you sat down with at the point of the listing appointment weren't really concerned or thinking about the fee. Because if you think about the TV adverts, the fee was never mentioned. So you walked into that living room.
Although the saving wasn't it? And the fact there was no commission. And
commissory, wasn't it?
Yeah. Later on, not back in sort of 2000. So I started in March 2015. So it was... it
was the two brothers that weren't Michael and Kenny, right? That
correct.
Was the TV
Yeah. So those came out, I think, sort of later on during that year. But in that listing appointment, the vast majority of clients didn't really know about the fee until you pitched that at the end. So you'd walk them through that they were going to get you from start to finish. They had this brilliant technology platform that allowed them insight into the sale of their home that they've never had before. Oh, I feel like I'm pitching me steps again here. And then you said, and I'm only going to charge you, I think back in my day, $699, I want to say, or something along those lines, $599 plus VAT, I don't know.
Double that now.
Yeah, absolutely, bargain.
Well, that's now it's free, of course. But
well, now it is free. Let's not go
that's
down.
Another thing altogether.
Yeah.
So Steph, sorry, it does beg the question. I mean, you paint a great picture of optimism and excitement about the whole Purplebricks journey at the beginning. Why did it fail?
Yeah, where'd it go wrong?
I know it's not your responsibility. You were out way before then. And I also want to talk about your California journey. So I think that's fantastically exciting. But why did Purplebricks fail? It did fail.
I think that there was probably sight lost of what made that business tick. And that were those brilliant estate agents fighting the good fight in the living rooms with clients.
And the culture.
And ultimately that takes a knock. You know, if those people aren't the ones being ultimately looked after, that culture is going to wane.
Starts eating itself, doesn't it?
And, you know, I suppose when the volume is still there, but you're kind of fighting to find the passion as to why you're taking that volume on, then, you know, things are going to change. And ultimately I did leave in 2019. So I wasn't there for lots of the sort of issues that happened thereafter.
So did you leave before Michael and Kenny left or after?
In between Michael and Kenny leaving.
There's only a few months between the two of them leaving, right?
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime ago now. But
look, tell us about the US thing, because I can only imagine working for a very ballsy startup growth business that lists on the stock exchange, gets to over £1 billion in value, which it did, which was absolutely incredible. And then one day, presumably Kenny or Michael was saying to you, right, before then actually, because obviously that was as a consequence of the international expansion, right, we've done Australia, we've done Germany, done Canada, we're going to hit California. Will you come with us? I mean, wow, really?
Castleford versus California. Let's go.
I mean, I'd actually always been somebody to say that I will live in the States. And then that opportunity's put on your plate. And you go, well, I'm going to move heaven and earth to make sure I can go out there and do that. And yeah, just from a personal perspective, I lived 15 minutes from Laguna Beach one direction, 15 minutes from Newport Beach the other. It's not bad.
The ultimate work-life balance.
And that's what's so brilliant about living in a country with sun, because you have so many more hours of the day to go and actually enjoy.
Well, it's a better mindset. You feel better than waking up on a rainy Tuesday morning and thinking, oh, God, look at the state of that, don't you? And what was your role in the US? It was recruitment, right?
Head of recruitment. Yeah. So
how did you recruit? How
many? Yeah. Oh, God, I don't know now.
Because it seemed to be going like a train until it didn't.
Yeah. So my experience, so we went out there a little ahead of launch. So we were out there in the June. We launched with the original group of territory owners in September. So it was just talking to people and then trying to wrap their head around, one, an English company coming and trying to do something in the States. And not so much on the West Coast, but certainly on the East Coast, people had, memories of Foxtons going over, booming and then crashing. And those sorts of things.
Another business that failed in the US.
Absolutely. And, I think with hindsight, what we did was go and take a model that works specifically in the UK, because Purplebricks was working in the UK at that point, and then plonk it in another country and just expecting
as
it all
a cookie cutter thing, assuming it would just work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so obviously that's a lesson, I guess, and maybe Michael and Kenny would acknowledge that. How did agents in the US perceive this launch? I mean, how did they feel about the fact that these upstarts, not just from Britain, but coming in to disrupt this cozy 6% fee lifestyle? How did they react to that visibly?
Either really well or really, really poorly. So, I've still got friends. In fact, a couple of my friends came over for my wedding last year that I met at Purplebricks, which was brilliant. Flew all the way to Spain. And I've got friends that I speak to on a recurrent basis now. And actually, they look back at their time at Purplebricks and go, do you know what? It's made my real estate career, because I had access to so much data, so many leads that I just wouldn't have as a traditional real estate agent, that I've now been able to build my career on that, even though I'm now doing a more traditional percentage type fee. So I think for the people that took the time at PB and then worked with that data, they've probably done very, very well out of it.
As a good schooling, almost as a platform to future things. Yeah.
So fast forward, Steph, to the TA UK. The gift that keeps on giving, I'm told. 30% up front.
Yeah, what is that about? That was a pretty ballsy move, I think. So I saw that, what was that, a couple of weeks ago as this goes out, 3 or 4 weeks ago potentially. So to be clear on this, self-employed model, you charge a full fee, as every agent now would do, apart from Purplebricks that are free. And you give 30% of it up front to the self-employed agent. Is that right? Is there a caveat? Is it just you write them out a check the next week and say, you listed that at £1 million at 2%. So that's...
it's a two-bed terrace in Barnsley.
That's £7,000. There you go.
Yes. So look, we've done some, real rigorous work with our financial projections, looking at the success that we've created over the last 3 years, and then looked at the barrier to entry for agents. So the reason it's come around is that, and I listened to your episode 1 and you talked about the fact that salaries haven't increased, over the last decade or so. And so what you've got with the opportunity with brokerages out there is freedom, and after a certain point, financial freedom and time back with family, and the ability to deliver a more consistent and greater level of service to your clients. So all these wonderful things, I don't see a bad outcome for clients or agents in this kind of model, but not everybody has access to it. Because if we're still earning the wages and agency that we were a decade ago, you haven't got the time to put those
We
6
can't put enough money
to name.
away.
Absolutely. And people talk about you need 3 to 6 months. In reality, you need 9 to 12 months.
No, we reckon 12.
Yeah.
We were just having that conversation. And Alice from Nested was sitting where you are in a previous episode and said exactly the same thing. It's naive to think that you're going to list, sell and complete in 4 to 6 months. So, as I think you pointed out, if you've got living costs of £2,000 a month, you need £24,000 to go and do what you're suggesting they should do as a self-employed agent.
Absolutely. And I think, it takes that 12 months to get you consistent. So don't get me wrong, you are going to complete on something in month 3, month 4, but it's month 9 through 12 where you really get those consistent completions.
So how does it work then? So you're literally writing out a check for 30% of the fee to everybody that signs up on that basis, because the split's different if you go for that option as opposed to taking all at the end.
Our standard option is 80-20, and you earn 80% of the fee that you decide to charge at the point of completion. Our option B, the advanced commission model, is that it's a 70-30 split, and you can invoice for 30% of that 70% at the point that you list the home.
As many instructions as you want in a month?
We have a cap on it of £3,600 a month.
Okay.
So this isn't Las Vegas months, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have a bit of skin in the game. You can't expect to launch your own business and it be, fucking hunky-dory, pardon my French,
Don't worry,
from day one.
Yeah, it is. I thought the first swear word would be me. Yeah, I thought it would be me.
Shows we're live, folks.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So
you're being sensible about it.
You've got to be sensible. And I think, as I say, there should be an element of some pain for anyone starting their own business. It cannot come at zero cost. So there is a cap in terms of the maximum earnings. But again, that should allow most people to pay mortgage, put gas in the car, put beans on toast on the table. And obviously, we're not taking all of the commission. There is the rest of the commission to be paid upon completion.
The bigger chunk.
So having been a disruptor in the estate agency world under Purplebricks, it feels like yourself and the management team and the wider chair are looking to disrupt the self-employed model now, to blow everyone else away with money up front.
I don't think it's necessarily a disruption. I think it's opening up the table to more people that just cannot consider it. And that's got to be a big proportion of people based on how wages are in this country. So I think it's levelling the playing field for great estate agents to go, actually, I can now consider this.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't appreciate the cap. So I think the fact that the cap is at play means that otherwise you end up hiring or recruiting or partnering with people that perhaps then would display the wrong behaviour if they're all about I'll just list whatever I can at whatever price and just take the 30% and I'll do it at the top end of the market. Fees of 20 grand. I mean, you'd be doing very well, but you've obviously thought about that and covered that so that it's not a free for all.
There was a lot of noise there, wasn't there, on LinkedIn when you mentioned it last week? There was an awful lot of.
I think every time I post on LinkedIn, there's a lot of noise for one reason or the other.
Welcome to my world. But do you think some of your competitors are worried? Do you think you got them on the run with this?
No, because I think we're only just scraping the barrel of what this can be in the industry. And I think clients should have choice. Agents should also have choice. The brokerage that you want to partner with is about finding the like-minded people, the people that you want as your business partners. And so we're not going to be right for everybody. Everybody's not going to be right for us. And there should be that option to explore, I think.
And how many bodies are you looking for? So you sit today, I think I saw somewhere last week at about 80. Is that around right? Or I got that?
By the time this comes out, we'll be over the 100.
Over 100. So how many agents are you looking to have? In what time frame?
I don't think we've put a stopper on that number because I think what we've done really well to now is find, again, the vast majority of times, the like-minded individuals who will love being a part of what we're creating. I think we're going to have access to have more conversations with people off the back of the advanced commission model. But I think my personal view is this will be the predominant space over the next 5 to 10 years in agency.
As in growth.
Correct.
And there might be a couple of other things that might help you as a business. They're called Kenny Bruce and Harry Hill. So we can't have you sitting here, Steph, and not talk about the fact that you have got 2 superstar investors and members of your board. So Kenny Bruce is chairman.
Harry's chairman.
Oh, Harry's chairman, sorry.
Yeah.
And Kenny is investor stroke advisor. I don't know if he has a specific role. Now, given Harry's background, he was pretty good as the boss of Countrywide and invented Rightmove, which is quite the claim to fame.
Kenny, wish I owned it, is his famous saying.
Well, I wish it had shares, But Kenny, of course, very famously, part of the duo, Michael and Kenny, that obviously took Purplebricks to prominence. Certainly while they were there, it was very successful under their tenure. Regardless of what happened afterwards.
Well, we all thought they'd buy it back, didn't we?
Well, yeah, I speculated that they might do. But I guess, look, you move on, right? So you move on. So, look, here's my question. I agree that the self-employed industry, the sector, is very, very exciting. I think it's going to grow and grow and grow. I'm not suggesting for a second that self-employed becomes the only sector and that we end up like the US where 95% of agents are self-employed. I'm not suggesting that, but I think it will grow and grow and grow because good agents can earn more money and it allows them to earn what they're worth. I think if we look back to the online estate agency days, back to when I started in 2009 and so on, Purplebricks came along 5 years later. Purplebricks stopped, looked, listened, waited to analyse what everybody else was doing in the online space and then did it better, raised more money, better marketing, and a better model, actually, having looked at what we were all doing. I think Kenny, with you, is going to do exactly the same thing in the self-employed model.
I would love to hope that.
How close am I to reality? The reason Kenny's got involved and brought Harry in as two heavyweights with huge reputations and a few quid is to take the agency UK to dominance and prominence by way of not just expertise, but money. Are you the entity that I have been talking about for a year or two that is going to seek to expand rapidly like Purplebricks did and blow all of the others out of the water? Is that you?
I certainly think we've laid fantastic foundations to be able to have a good run at it, for sure.
Are we getting a politician's answer here, Steph Walker?
Slightly. Slightly.
So is that the plan?
I think we've spent 3 years really, really looking at what's working, what's not, how we can address that for agents and for the business, in a larger sense. Having Harry and Kenny come on board, well, the purpose of a board is that when there's 3 founders working in the business, it's quite difficult sometimes to, take a 10,000 foot view and see where you can make changes. And God, we've been so lucky to have Harry and Kenny be those people that can stop and fact check and say, let's think about this a bit further.
It's not luck, is it? It's not luck. It's engineered. And I'm going to push you a little bit here, Steph, because I know you can take it. Kenny and Harry are not the sort of people that do this stuff for nothing. No. They're not doing it for charity. They're not doing it to be benevolent. There's a return here. And the only way that there's a return here is if you end up with, let's say, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 agents. You're listing, in the top 5 of all estate agents in Britain, where your revenue's up here, your profits there, and then maybe
you're then listed.
And you list on the stock exchange, exactly.
Yeah.
Come on, is that the plan?
I don't think we've thought that far ahead. I think our thought process is over the next 2 or 3 years to grow in a steady fashion, particularly now that we have the advanced commission model. Again, I think that opens up the floor to so many more agents that just haven't been able to consider this as yet. One of the metrics for us, strangely, which is perhaps not the same as some other brokerage models, is that, on an 80-20% split, our model works when agents are productive. And so it's not necessarily about those headcount number of agents. I think it's really about having also the time and resource to make sure people are earning money, because it is so easy within this model for countless number of heads to be under a brokerage. And then if somebody isn't selling a house, well, it's not really about that anyway, because you're collecting a desk fee or a subscription per month, etc. So I think we've also got to a point now where the model, or it has been modeled so that we can give the time and resource, we can now grow at a nice steady pace. And look, would I love to think that we could be a player for the top 1 or 2 position over the next 5 to 10 years? Absolutely. And it will be continuing the hard work that has been put in to date.
Just before Russell gives you the opportunity to do a final pitch for TA UK, I'd like to explore the work-life balance, because in my world at Rayner Personnel, we're all self-employed.
Yeah.
And I will observe people who get the results they want out of that business have to give it their all.
Yeah.
Where do you see this? Because a big piece of self-employed is work-life balance. And I struggled to see it in some respects. Where do you see that?
So I think for me, there's a bit of a misconception that work-life balance means that you knock off at 5:30 like you would do in an employed role. I think it's more around understanding what work has to go in for what output and time blocking. So you can go to the gym in the morning, you can take the kids to play cricket on a Saturday morning, you can do all of these things as long as there's a certain amount of hours dedicated for the output that you want. And that's one of the great things about a estate agency, right? And I'm sure your model in terms of recruitment as well, in that certain people will have different earnings goals. You know, there's widely different opportunities to earn based on what part of the country that you're in, and then fee levels, etc. But within a estate agency, there's, 5 or 6 very simple things that you need to be doing on a daily basis to get the output of the listings and the sales. And so it's just having the amount of time to put into that. But there is a skill set, I think, that not everybody has when they start their own business, in holding yourself accountable to doing the work at the time you said you're going to do the work. It's very easy to sit there and 10 hours later, I've done absolutely nothing.
There's a lot of scrolling.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, again, and that's why when you go out and you look for the brokerage that you want to join, it's about knowing what you're really good at, intuitively, what you're not so good at, and partnering with people that are going to help you with the not so goods.
And in the partnership piece, if I'm an estate agent, I can join you. If I'm a non-estate agent, can I join you?
So we have only had experienced estate agents join us to this point. We have just recently launched our teams model. So some of our, sort of top earners who now are looking to expand may look at bringing non-experienced people into their teams in a different format. But I think what's really important is that we stay true to what we want to be. And that is a brilliant advocate to the homeowner when selling their home. And I don't think we can underestimate just how important of a role that is. So putting somebody into a role they've never done before, also whilst they're being self-employed, doesn't give me a load of comfort personally.
Wow. Okay. So I think we're at the end, I'm afraid.
We are.
Are you finding already, so now we're episode, whatever we are, 4, that we talk for 30 minutes and you just think that, actually, I'd like to go on another 15 or 20 minutes, but we're trying to be...
people back.
We can, but we're trying to be disciplined. Who wants to look at the beginning of a podcast? You think, it's only an hour and 45 minutes long. Yeah, maybe I won't do that.
Yeah, 3 train journeys.
So we think 30-ish minutes is about right. So, but at the end, as Russell's indicated, we always ask that the guest has the benefit of being able to look at the camera and say, right, this is what we're all about.
This is your fee.
Yeah, this is your advert. Why should, let me start you off. Why should an agent, whether they're in a self-employed model or not already, or employed, think about the agency as their next step?
So I think we're a great business partner, whether you are an employed estate agent looking to transition into the self-employed world, whether you're at a brokerage and you're looking for a slightly higher level of support or tech or resource, or even if you're an independent business owner who's thinking, I want to get more of my profit in my pocket, or I want to expand more quickly and I want to have the benefit of a network around me. I think we have a brilliant looking brand that travels across all price points. I think we're incredibly fair in terms of the split, be it the 80-20 or having access to that advanced commission model on the 70-30 scenario. I think we pack a load of value into what we deliver on a monthly, quarterly and annually basis for our agents. But most importantly, I think we are a brilliant network of fantastically experienced estate agents from all different walks of life across 40 counties of the UK. And if you're looking for a real business partner that's got your back, I think it's the Agency UK.
Wow, what an advert. That was great. One of our better ones.
Elevator,
One of our better ones. It's great. It's good. Right, look, Steph Walker, thank you very, very much indeed. Thanks for making the journey and being on this. It's been very insightful indeed. Sorry to push you a little bit, but that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, good.
I guess, look, that's the end of episode 4. Episode 5 coming soon. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
See you later.